Are we recording already?
Oh, that's,
Okay. Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Audit and Finance Committee meeting of the Broome County IDA, September 28th, 10 a.m. First thing on the agenda is to accept the minutes from the March 15th, 2003 committee meeting. Everybody's had a chance to review them, so we will submit those for the record. Now look for public comment. If anyone wishes to comment, please limit your comments to 5 minutes. State your name, address. Hearing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda. Scott Fielder, review of the investment portfolio.
Thank you.
hey,
All right. Jump straight to tab one, portfolio overview. Most of this is just rehashing information that's been on there, but again, just like I said last time, giving an overview of what this portfolio is all about, I think is helpful to any new members that may join this committee or board in the future. Its market value as of, that should not say December 2020, that should be September 23rd. Par value is $8,467,000. Very first paragraph. So that's, assuming all of these securities mature. We hold them to maturity. That's what they will mature at. Last paragraph, annual income is about $159,240. It's just under 2% yield. That's the coupon payments. And yield to maturity is 5.92%.
okay.
As you can see, the on page 2, total cost is $8,281,500. Market value is $8,201,729. We buy all these treasuries on the secondary market, which do fluctuate in value, and assuming we hold them all to maturity, which is what the intention always is, the market value is really irrelevant because we had to liquidate for some reason. Okay, and then we've got the maturity ladder. And so most of them are maturing within 12 months, so mostly in 2024. And the next page actually shows a little bit more finite detail. And this is a little different than when I was here in December, because we have stretched out the maturities a little bit. The primary focus is still to fill in the maturity ladder so that there's always something maturing. So there's always going to be cash available if necessary within a pretty short period of time. So in December, average duration was about 0.91. Now the average duration is 1.02. Average maturity was 0.94. It's now 1.07. We have, and there was just under 500,000 maturing in 3 to 5 years. Now we've got 1.5. And the listing of each individual security in the portfolio, grouped together by maturity date. So I get break down what all of this stuff means. Current yield is just the coupon payment based on the market value. So it's different than the coupon. The coupon payment is that second column from the right or from the left. And that's the stated coupon payment when the treasury is issued. And then the current yield is that coupon payment based on the market value of the security. Duration is the the amount of time as a percentage of the year. Until maturity, yield to maturity is a function of the coupon and the difference between cost and par value. Which is really what's yield to maturity column is the most important one for our purposes in this portfolio. Hey, any questions on that before I?
So you'll take that 1.3 million, right? Cause that's maturing, right? And you'll roll that over and, you know, when this matures, you'll add to the ladder, right?
The next.
Yeah.
For the 2023.
Yeah.
That's showing there, yeah, so, well, you can see that's actually four treasury securities make up
Right.
that 1.3.
So what kind of yield can we expect on that when you ladder it back in there?
Yeah, so it depends on where we ladder it, so if you look down through, we made an effort to make it monthly maturities so that every month there's something maturing, so that if there's a cash need, it's there. But I've also, as I plug in those maturities, trying to go out a little bit further, and when you go out past pretty much 12 months now, the yields do go down a little bit, but there's still some value there in just stretching it out. If yields start to go down, you know, we'll be glad we've got some 5.2 or 4.9% yields if the yields at that time are 3.5, which is the point Peter made last time. It's stretching it out.
But down is still, I mean,
Relative.
right, two-year, you're gonna get 550 and the 10 years 470 or today. I mean, it's continuing to climb, so it's still gonna be well in excess of
It's gonna be better.
the 50 basis point current yield we're getting now is gonna go more like 450, right?
That's what I.
Current yield is the coupon, so the current yield, you wouldn't see much of a change, because they're not adjusting coupon payments. The way the interest rates affect,
But the coupon will go up when we buy a new bond, right?
the coupons typically don't go up, I guess they.
And the current yield in the market's gonna be 450. If you bought a bond today,
Yeah.
your coupon would be 450. something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we're gonna have more interest income,
Yeah, right,
Right.
not just having to wait for maturity to capture the.
right. But, yeah, this cash will be worth more to them now. Okay.
And that, that may be a more.
Because
permanent
income
than
matters,
temporary.
income matters to us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you got some money for some programs.
Absolutely.
All right, so tab 3 is just a screenshot of the transition account. This is where, as soon as the security matures, we move the proceeds back to this account, and actually we're changing that process a little bit since our last meeting a couple of weeks ago. We're just looking to keep a balance of about 275,000.
That was a request I had made, and I'll go expound on that as we get into our meeting. But typically, it sweeps from the transition account either into our investment, or Scott will reach out when a maturity is happening and recommend a reinvestment, and just to keep the process, I think, easy, seamless. I think, we just agreed that the process can be when a maturity happens, just, unless otherwise stated, that we would request the funds just to keep reinvesting it at the best yield that you recommend at the time.
Yeah.
This is just a holding account.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right.
Does that pay interest?
Yeah, does it say on here what the?
I mean, I see the.
Is it current rate? Is that 3? Down there?
Yes, yep.
3%.
3%.
You just might as well leave it in there a little longer.
Well. Mhm.
Okay, yeah.
Scott, if income mattered to us, we could sell the 8.2 million. And buy $8.2 million that's yielding 4% now and get that interest income into next year's budget, right? I mean, it's marketable, everything we have. So we would have a loss of $267,000 if we liquidated the portfolio today. But we would capture that increased interest income next
Based
year,
on the-
right?
You would introduce interest rate risk. Depending on the yield or the durations that you bought.
We have the interest rate risk now.
Right, but it's spread out.
With the ladders.
Yeah, it's laddered.
Yeah.
But again, and I don't know this stuff that well, but if you sold it, liquidated the portfolio. And you got $8.2 million, and then you went out on the ladder today, and so the short term's gonna get you 550 and your long term's gonna get you 450. You could rebuild and increase the yield
The yield, yeah.
to us, the actual cash interest payments over the next 12 months, right? We could do that, right?
Yeah, you would be, because we buy them on the secondary market. The prices for a better yield are higher. So we'd be selling
But the
these.
current yield is at par, right? I mean, you could. Right,
Current
current yield, you bought $1 million bond at today's rate, you pay $1 million,
Mhm.
right?
At issue, you only pay par when it's issued. We buy all of them on the secondary market, so we're buying it from somebody who already bought it. In this case, the reason why yield to maturity is greater than the coupon or the stated yield is because we buy them at a discount to par.
Okay.
So we pay $950,000 for $1 million bond, we get the coupon payment and $1 million. We get the coupon payment throughout the life of
Yeah.
the T-bill.
So I'm just thinking current coupon is so much higher than what the current yield is. If we wanted to capture more income, there are options for us to do that, right?
You would be essentially the market. Because it's the secondary market, the market adjusts the price of everything based on.
Right, so we take a loss on the bond. And then you sort of recapture that in the interest income in the future.
Yeah, possibly. It would, I mean, I could run a scenario, certainly. Run a.
I'm just curious, because, the 2%, it's a difference in our budget. So 200,000 versus $400,000 of income next year.
How long would it take for us to recoup the 200,000? Right?
I think,
It's our policy, where we have to do these short-term ladders, right? You can't just take a little bit of it and go a little longer.
We don't have a stated policy, we
Well, I
just,
mean, we invest in.
yeah, we just have,
Treasury.
our policy states that we can only, basically, we only are allowed to invest in treasuries, but we work with NBT on how to stretch those out based on yield and, secure, long-term
Yeah,
security.
To Peter's point, I mean, when interest rates were so low, there was no help for our budget.
Right,
There's an opportunity now maybe to help your operating budget with just the yield that we're talking about, because that money, we're not gonna take $8 million and go use
Right.
it somewhere. It's always gonna be there, isn't it? Yeah.
really, I hope so.
Yeah. It's just
Less
strategies you gotta think about.
I was gonna say,
Now
no,
you can
yeah.
help your operating budget, what he's talking about, whereas
You-
before there was no help for it.
Would it be prudent maybe just to set up a discussion? So Scott, we haven't talked about this, maybe just set up a time to,
yeah, maybe
Run
have,
some
maybe have Scott
scenarios
run
and-
some scenarios on.
Right.
and maybe
yeah,
meet
yeah.
with us.
What would happen if we said, hey, Scott, our objective now is to optimize income?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That would,
that
That
would
would
change
be-
this.
It would,
Yeah.
it would change how I
Sure.
reinvest.
Right.
I wouldn't be looking so much to plug holes in the maturity ladder. I'd be
Right.
looking for the highest coupon.
Right.
Yeah,
Not the highest yield to
The
maturity.
maturity
but the highest
ladder,
coupon.
I don't know. I don't know that it's all that important to us that we always have something maturing. So I don't know about the secondary market and all that stuff. I'm not sure I get that, but it's all marketable.
Yeah.
I mean, if we told you we have a cash need for $1 million next week, you get us the $1
Yeah.
million, right?
and I think it was,
You meet next
yeah,
week, I can have-
yeah.
Right.
And I'm trying to think of why, previously with Brad, we did the ladders, I think it was just probably the fluctuation and the yield as the shorter term was starting to be of higher value. We just started to break those into shorter increments to get, but now you're right. I mean,
So it's
now
good that-
with the
it's good that we have
10-year,
stuff maturing so that we can
Yeah.
take
Yeah, right,
advantage of
right,
these
right.
higher rates.
Yeah.
But maybe
Because-
we could take advantage of the higher rates immediately if that proved.
Yeah, so that's actually part of the reason why you want, maybe not this frequent, but of maturities is that's the interest rate
Right,
risk, is
right.
that if rates are going up and you're stuck in long-term bonds that you bought 5 years ago.
Right.
You can't take advantage of those, and even if you sell them,
Yeah.
they're not worth it.
But it's a different game now. I mean, before, where we were getting 0.5%. Now there's an opportunity, get, 5%. That's a,
And it could work
different
against us if we just have a
revenue
ladder
stream.
because rates may go down and then we've got stuff maturing. It's like, oh, I wish I was a little bit further up.
yeah.
That's exactly why you ladder them, you spread the interest rate risk, but I agree, monthly maturities for a
Yeah,
maturity
I mean-
ladder is not
Not getting
necessarily
much income there.
that productive.
do you want to run a few scenarios and then we can regroup?
Like an income scenario.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to.
and
be
it's
in a-
just, we don't have to go crazy and run 5 different scenarios, but I think liquidating and looking for greater income and see.
I don't think I would.
You won't-
Yeah.
can't do it for this budget.
No, it would be for next,
So-
yeah. for
You're
next
just,
year.
you're just looking for income statement stuff, because this is. Market value is a balance sheet item, right? The income is
Right.
income, for that. You're just.
That's what I'm
looking for
saying. Are we
income
as concerned about a balance sheet thing or are we more concerned about the income? I
I don't
mean,
think so.
I don't
I'd say-
think
Market value is market value, right? I mean,
Take
that
this
is the value,
away,
like it or
right?
not.
it's always gonna be there.
Our values just means
So
that what
make
you're
some
giving up
money on it.
currently in interest income.
Yeah.
You know, If you could generate 400 grand, I mean, you
Why
like
not?
that.
I would
wouldn't
love that.
you? We could Go do what our mission is.
I like it. Yeah.
So, Joe, to answer your question about the policy, the language is actually quite broad in your investment policy statement. It says it needs to be invested. It can't be invested for a longer duration than what the cash needs may be. So, that's a very vague.
Yes,
that's
potentially, I'm sure.
Right, so.
We like intentional vagueness sometimes in what we do because it gives us the ability to be
Absolutely.
nimble. Yeah. Mhm. Okay. All right.
All right, so I can certainly do that. All right, and then this is just a market commentary. This is kind of a pretty
Macro.
popular product over the last 2 years. It's just this, we call it the liquidity product. It's pretty much the portfolio you guys have always had. It's just laddering the treasuries.
Mhm.
So we actually get this updated every month. So the Fed didn't change their rates. And probably the bigger news out of that meeting was that they anticipate lowering rates only twice next year, which the headlines are now, higher for longer, possibly higher forever, which kind of is expected, right? Zero interest rates isn't realistic for the long term. It
Yeah.
historically is not. So higher than zero forever is probably what we can expect.
Are they
Okay.
saying one more potential hike this, oh no, this year? I think.
Possibly one more hike, going forward, obviously not two, it's already September.
Yeah.
Um, but it's gonna. You know, this Fed has not only talked about their willingness to let the data
Right.
guide them, they've shown us that's their intention. And it's very deliberate not to make predictions, because, you know, we all know what the media will do with every word that those guys say.
Yes, yeah.
So really, anything other than, you know, casting a big broad net as far as predictions goes is nothing more than a prediction or speculation, because it depends on the data. Okay, so this just shows, this one, the first pair of pie charts here just shows a money market versus treasury bills. Treasury bills are government securities that mature in less than 12 months. So the duration would obviously be less than one, yield of like 5.5. And then the next page shows the actual yield to maturity. For 3 months through 24 months, and it overlays the yield curves from December of 2021 compared to September of 2023. So the red one is not only inverted, but even if it shifts to a normal yield curve, it's still significantly higher.
Okay.
You know, a shift from inverted to normal still keeps rates higher even on a shoulder. Okay, then just this shows treasury bills and treasury notes. Treasury notes they just go out, they just go longer, longer duration than 1 year, and treasury notes pay coupons, treasury bills do not.
Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, so I'll follow up with you about maybe how to,
Yeah.
how we want to proceed with that.
Happy to do it.
All right, thank you, Scott.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
the update.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great day.
Next item on the agenda is review and recommendation of approval for full boards for the IDA operational budget for fiscal year 2024. Stacy.
Okay, so just as always, a reminder, we are required per New York State Authority's budget office to have our budget in our final budget approved and submitted to New York State ABO by October 31st. So the budget we're proposing today would be considered for approval at our October 18th meeting. You know, we can run through this pretty quickly. There's not a lot of significant change with the IDA proposed budget. So if we start in start with income, column A for land and building income, not a lot of significant changes there. You will see a slight increase in rent and tenant leases on 5 South College Drive. That's due to an increase in the rents that were began this year. So you do see a slight increase in rent due to those tenant lease agreements that have been renewed for 5 years. We've taken a conservative approach right now to take income from the Tarpon lease. That's the cell tower that's being proposed in land that we own in the corporate park at 147 Corporate Drive. They're still in process with the town of Conklin for approvals. I'm not sure why a cell tower is taking quite this long, but you know, we've not received any income to date. We do, you know, there is the potential that this will take effect next year, but just to be conservative, we've taken that out. Miscellaneous income, Natalie, can you remind me why we're over, why we've received more? Is that the reimbursement on the, that was,
Fences
yeah,
From 600 Main Street.
yeah.
The insurance payouts we received.
Yeah, we had a car drive into our fence at 600 Main Street. So as a result of our insurance policy, we did get a reimbursement on that. So has been repaired, but generally standard rule is, that 10,000 is a pretty standard amount that we budget every year. So, again, not a significant amount of change, just trying to stay conservative on our projections from land and building income. And other than that, we don't really, other than the parcels at 600 Main and the corporate park, which are currently vacant, we don't see any new changes as of yet for 2024. But are actively working to redevelop those sites. So going to our lease back, our BCIDA fees, we always try to look in the year ahead and project what projects we have in the pipeline, where they are in the process of approval with us, but also, really a realistic start date. So I'm going to jump actually down to our recurring fees. These are fees that were greater than, I would say, greater than 500,000 or even in some cases, $1 million in total fee that we sometimes opt to break out into annual payments to provide some recurring revenue to the organization. As you know, Canopy Growth has decided to terminate that project in the town of Kirkwood. As such, we've captured our full fee this year. That's the $393,900. So we have taken that out of 2024's budget. Spark JC, you will see a differential in the annual fee from 138.9 to 100,000, and unfortunately, that was just some miscommunication on some terms and agreements. The amount should have been the 100,000. We had our council just verify. There were, I think, I'm not sure where the miscommunication happened, but that's, on me ultimately. So we are receiving the full amount of the fee. It's just broken out over 2 more years than we had initially anticipated. So I do have the schedule of payments for that. So beginning in January of 2022 was our first payment of 100,000. And that will be $100,000 all the way through January 1, 2032, so 10 years, plus an additional final payment in 2033 of $54,992. So the total fee on that, it will be realized, it's just broken out differently than we had initially projected. The 94,000 roughly for Bluestone is still recurring. I believe there is, I don't have the term on that one. But that was I believe also a 10-year term. We have billed that for 2023, just so you know, it is billed. They typically pay that in Q4. So we fully expect that to come in for this year. I'm anticipating we'll get that likely November, December, which December was when we closed. So I'm guessing, I believe that typically comes in then, but it has been billed. So those were the recurring revenue that, so we're continuing the Spark JC payments and the Bluestone payments and terminating any projected income from Canopy. So moving back up to our sale leaseback fees. This is where we, again, look at what's in the pipeline and try to make our best estimate of what we expect to close for the following year. Projects that are active in the pipeline right now. So for 2023, we expect to close Green Mountain Electrical as well as Crowley Lofts. So that would be income we expect to realize this year. However, there is the possibility those could move into 2024. What we have in the pipeline for 2024 potentially includes Regan Development, a fee of roughly 300,000, 310,000, I'll say. CDS Housing, that's the sheltered workshop. That's a fee projected of 426,000 and change. Conifer Development, 395,767. And Town and Country, which is a significant fee of 652,134. So all in total, that's a fee income of $1,783,087. Obviously, you'll see we've projected significantly less at $696,000. The reason being is, well, we wanted to fill the gap at Canopy, so we have added the 100,000 in there. The reason why we're staying very conservative is because all of these projects are part of state homes and community renewal programs, receiving low-income housing tax credits. Just historically, we know those projects can take a long time to close with the state. The two that are approved for financing from New York State are CDS and Town and Country. We expect them to close with the state in 2024. I just, for me, I would prefer to stay very conservative on our income related to those because there's just projects that are seemingly taking so long right now.
She's looking at me like I.
So-
No, I did.
It's CSD, not CDS.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
CBS is over
CBS is a different one. My apologies. No, it's okay. CSD. I know.
It's okay to sandbag us a little. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I just,
Like that. I don't blame you.
we've gotten caught thinking things were gonna move faster than they are, and right now in this environment, everything's just moving.
Will all those fees come in total, or do we expect them to be scheduled like we've had Spark and the others?
Honestly, I would anticipate full fee. The 652 might be one we wanna look at. Maybe breaking out over a 2 to 3 year term, just for again, recurring income. Typically, we try to use about 500,000 as a benchmark. Anything above that would we consider term amount but I would definitely recommend, given what we ran into with Canopy, shorter terms on these, just because we had to chase that down.
And on the HCR approved deals. You get to a closing point, right? The initial closing. And that's when a pile of cash comes in
Yeah.
and they clear it up. They
Yeah.
don't want.
They don't really
liabilities
want
hanging
to
out
hold
there.
that, so,
HCR may
That
very
makes
well
sense.
So that
The
might be-
private developers may want to stretch.
yeah,
They go,
Oh,
And,
okay.
yeah.
The other ones, they want to get rid of it, right?
Yeah,
I got it.
so-
It may even be required that they clear out those debts.
Okay.
mhm. So I'm confident with what's in the pipeline that the 696 is a realistic number based on what we have currently pending to close, and we can always, so but again, would prefer to stay conservative on that side of things. What else? So just other fees, our small business incentive, that's our sales tax program where we just have an application fee and then project cost, smaller fees associated with that. We're on track. I think if we receive a few more this year, we're on track to hit that 10,000. So we've kept that flat. Pilot administration fee, we do have some flexibility there to increase that. I think we have we can't go above 40,000 with the pilot I'm sorry, not the pilot administration fee, the loan fund administration fee.
Right.
So we've
Based off
capped
of,
that.
Our interest that we receive.
Yeah.
So we did some estimations, and we definitely can add a 5,000 to that.
Yeah. And I jumped over, sorry, pilot administration fee, because of all of the reporting we have to do on an annual basis to the New York State Authority's budget office. A lot of that requires going back to our clients, project verification, employment verification. So we assess a $1,500 fee. So that's based on an annual fee that we assess to those projects to cover staff time and things like that. So overall projecting income just shy of 1 million, again, just intentionally staying conservative. So at 975,058. So a slight decrease in projections for next year from this year, excuse me. But I think realistic based on what we see in the pipeline there. And then other income is just our bank interest fee, which with rates, as we know, being higher, we have received some more income from that, but we're suggesting we keep that flat for next year.
Is that just interest income, or is that also the investment income that we talked about here?
That is investment income.
So it's
And-
everything
and
from
yes,
this
everything, yeah.
portfolio plus any cash we have.
Yes, yeah. Mhm.
Might be worth just changing that title to investment
Okay. We can do that.
income / interest. something like that.
Okay, yep, we can do that. So net income or overall income projected just at 1.2 when you add the investment income in there. So again, a little bit below 2023's budget, but we think realistic with where we are. Any questions on income?
It's a minor point, but I mean, even, we're gonna have more. I mean, we've got the 110 already. It's not going down.
No,
So I mean, you could annualize where you are. It's doesn't matter, but
okay,
if these numbers balance and you like them,
Yeah.
it's another conservative column.
Stay pretty
Back
conservative.
pocket there,
They
right?
stay pretty conservative on budget,
All
I
your
guess.
cards.
Expense side, again, it's relatively comparable to this year's budget. You will see actually a net decrease in salaries. This is due to a few things. Currently, we have a shared agreement. We're sharing Patrick Doyle for about 70% of his salary comes from the agency and about 30% from the chamber. And that's just to provide some additional business development support. Patrick's taken the role as vice president of the chamber, and as such, he's doing a lot more day-to-day operations there. So we will remove him from any payroll obligations from the agency. So there's a net savings there on that. Also, we're continuing sharing Amy Williamson's time with the chamber for communications and marketing services. But it's a 50-50 this year. We're gonna propose 60% agency, 40% chamber, because we have a young woman down at the chamber who'll be taking on some support for Amy on communications.
Sorry, Stacy, just for clarification,
Yes,
Patrick
please.
was 30, us 70 chamber.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
thank
I just
you.
wanted it for the record.
Thank you. No, please, that's an important clarification. So right, so he will be 100% chamber funded. So we saw net savings from that. So with those, there is some salary implications there. We are recommending, and I did put in your folders, an updated organizational chart that reflects the change in the share for Amy Williamson's time. I'm also proposing for administrative purposes, utilizing Stacy Gukas for some administrative support on the chamber. If you see in the org chart, the orange reflects any sort of shared services with staffing. That would be 75% of her salary and time would be spent on agency duties and 25% for chamber duties. That's mostly administrative support with board, helping me with all the board as she does here, board agendas, minutes, follow up there, and as well some administrative kind of support for financial for Sue Kuhn down on the finance side. So there's a net savings to the agency with that as well. So this number reflected for 2024 of the 444,800 does show a net savings of $11,239. I am requesting approximately $20,000 in total for salary adjustments for staff. This does include CEO adjustment based per the recommendation of the personnel committee. That number, all of that increase is reflected in the 444,800.
We're still saving.
So we are still saving a net of about 11,000 on salaries.
Just to see if I have a conflict. You have,
You wouldn't, because he would have no official role with
want to
you.
make sure.
Yeah, nope, I appreciate
The
that.
color
question.
of the box, I want
Yeah,
to make
but
sure there's
there's-
nothing here for,
Nothing,
agency.
no payroll would come from
Got
the agency.
Okay.
It would be with Visit Binghamton's, more of a time, yeah.
just want to make sure.
Yep, appreciate that. So as far as salaries, we're also projecting a slight baseline. We have posted Brendan O'Brien's position, the community and business development specialist. We have capped that just slightly below where he ended when he left our organization. So there's a slight savings there as well. So we're doing very well on salary. And I think, based on what we're taking on, we do want to get Brendan's position filled, but we have included that position in the line. And we also have included if you look at the org chart, funding for business development assistant position, which we have yet not filled this year, but that could change next year, given the scope of work we expect to take on with development park and other projects. And just the activity with people looking at our community for investment. So that might be two roles we want to fill in 2024. And then on benefits line, we do see an increase of about $20,000. That is connected to salary increases. So there's always an adjustment up on when you do the salary increases. We have estimated for health, dental, and vision an increased estimate of 8.9%. We really don't get those numbers until December. But we wanted to stay maybe at or above where they were last. We actually saw a decrease.
Yeah,
This
last
year.
year they did raise it 10%,
But
and
then
then in
we-
July, they dropped it. And then so the estimate was about 8.9%.
Yeah, so we just,
They, so 20.
Yeah, ours is 12% just for reference. This year.
It represents 50% of your salary,
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
the costs associated with benefits. Now, I know that that includes 401k or 403b, whichever it is you have,
401k.
plus health insurance, no.
Mhm.
And you stop. Just an independent look at that, it just seems high as a percentage of gross.
and I mean, as far as our 401k, I mean, that's associated with the contribution of the organization to the individual.
It's the
So,
other side, it's the health insurance.
if I may be perfectly frank, our health insurance is a significant retention and attraction tool right now. And with, we're also, it would be challenging to eliminate where we are.
Not eliminate.
Oh, I didn't say eliminate.
Yeah.
John just said
Or
evaluate.
change,
Have you shot that out?
evaluate.
There's-
We have not.
You should consider it. I'm not telling you what to do, but consider it.
Do
There are more than one way, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And
Sure.
you could end up with the same or similar coverage.
Sure, we
At
can,
a far less and lower cost. That's all.
Do an RFP for.
Sure. You've got enough members of the chamber that do this for a living. I suspect you could probably have 3 or 4 of them give you. Take a look and give you something to think about. That's all.
okay, payroll administration is, we're recommending keeping professional services and payroll administration flat. Investment management, during COVID, they did lower that fee, that they assessed. That is back up at, I think it's roughly 10%,
no, it was 10.
was 10.
Back up. to
Thank
25.
you. The numbers are floating
So
around
it
here.
was 15.
So it increased, yeah.
So this is the management of this
Yes, that's the
portfolio.
management fee for our relationship there.
How much is it as a percentage? What, 25% of our income? Is that how it works?
Well, of the investment amount.
The
So it's based
portfolio.
on the portfolio, right? So it's based on the
25 points. Yeah, do.
So 30,
The income should be the income.
Yeah,
50 basis points.
50 is that,
is that a high price?
yeah, that's a little bit.
It's high for treasuries.
Yeah, it's a simple thing.
Yeah.
to
Yeah, yeah, if
manage.
you're managing equities and stuff, it might be different.
No offense, but while you're looking for someone to look at your benefits,
Sure,
you
yeah.
might consider doing an RFP or Q, or whatever,
income.
for, excuse me, and NVT was the winner. Did anybody else submit? Wow. It's pricey.
We certainly can have a conversation with them on that. For sure. I believe, let's see, so that's any questions on admin other than what we've covered? And those are recommendations we will take forward. On essentially office expense, I think there's a slight increase related to some additional membership organizations. We've just become a member of the Industrial Asset Management Council, so there's a slight increase due to some, I think, meaningful memberships and associations that we'd like to participate with. Audit has gone up slightly, as you see. That's related to the continuing need for single audit services for the ARPA funds. Legal, we've budgeted an increase on that due to the amount of work that we expect Joe to take on with the new development park with our really option agreements. Joe's handling all of the option agreements and
Is he on retainer with us or do we do hourly with our legal with Joe?
yeah, I mean,
It's not a retainer then. Okay.
no,
He seems way behind in billing.
he's very behind.
We just got one.
Yeah,
Nice
so
chunk of
that's-
one, but
yeah.
yeah, we're leading up to March.
18,000 year to date and we're.
Only to turn into.
Anticipating-
I mean, the money is so good.
Right,
Exactly.
exactly.
It's how they send the manager cash flow, yeah.
And then insurance, just a,
Savings.
just a slight increase on our insurance, for our properties and directors and officers, et cetera. So not a significant increase, but an increase nonetheless. We're not recommending any changes to our business development budget. That's, we'll be doing, I think, more with that, with regard to the development park and bringing a firm on board to help with communications as this process plays out. So just quickly on the expenses related to 5 South College Drive, there is a slight decrease. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of income here. We have seen a little better this year than last year with the amount of repairs and that we've had to do with our HVAC system. I think we're finally settling in on getting that to run properly, which is good. But we're recommending just keeping the expense side of that flat. That's due to a number of recurring and annual maintenance contracts, et cetera. This year for 2023 was the first year we've included a $10,000 expense for building reserves. We're recommending that again. We plan to place that in a separate account, just as things at some point in time, there will be need for replacement of roof systems, et cetera, and we'd like to build up a healthy reserve for
And you
when those
haven't funded
times
that for 23 yet.
Right, yeah, we put it in there, but we didn't.
Yeah,
set-
we're gonna open
yeah.
up the.
We're gonna do the account. Yeah, Natalie and Gina are working
Good
on
idea.
getting the account set up. I don't think there's any significant changes on our maintenance contracts with properties that we own there. So again, you'll see it's a conservative operating income that we're projecting of $415. I prefer to stay very conservative on our budget, just because I think there's a lot of uncertainty.
He got burned a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Don't kid us, all right?
So I will note, there is one new item that I did want to get the committee's feedback on. We have continued the IDEA capital expenditures line. This is the monies we're using specifically for expenses related to our due diligence on the new corporate park. To date, we've spent $191,726. So we've carried that into 2024. I am recommending, or I wanted to get feedback, I'm proposing the creation of an economic development fund. We did put a short sort of overview of what that is, what we're proposing. From time to time, I will come to this board and request funds from a maturity of a treasury to be used for very specific purposes, such as studies germane to economic development. In the past, we've done our site inventory analysis with those funds. We've supported funding for phase 1 of a Rod Sterling Center feasibility study. And a lot of times we know and we learn of, I think, meaningful projects that want to happen, but always with many of these, the first step is having a master plan or a feasibility study or some sort of study that organizations aren't always able to fund. So what we're recommending, and I'm trying to see where my write-up is here on it. What we're recommending, what I'm suggesting is that in order to support economic development through the facilitation of feasibility, impact, market, master planning, and other studies that advance economic development and supports our role to serve as a catalyst and a partner, that we would take, and also as we finalize the blueprint plan, which is going to have very, I'd say, more tangible and strategic objectives related to housing, placemaking, and talent leadership development and industry expansion. I'm requesting the creation of an economic development fund through the IDA. This funding would be capitalized through, I'm recommending $500,000, probably more likely on a biannual allocation from maturities, from treasuries as they mature. So from that income that we receive to be put into a separate interest-bearing account. To give you an example of that income, from the end of this month through November, we expect to receive $873,000 roughly in maturities from our treasury. So what I would like to do, there's already $275,000 in our transition account that was the result of a maturity. I would like to put this funding in an interest-bearing account that as these proposals come either to us or from us, we bring them to you as this committee, the Audit and Finance Committee first, and then we bring this to the full board for final approval. So some examples of what those funds are, I gave you a few. We did our site inventory analysis as part of that. We're supporting the Rod Serling Center study as part of that. Other studies that are being talked about, and I think we could serve as a driver of, is a master plan for a Binghamton waterfront redevelopment. The city is very interested in doing a broad master plan because of some of the challenges they're dealing with in some of the properties located along the riverfront. I think it might make sense for us to lead that effort. We've been in conversations with a small 501c3 that's known as the Little Italy Group. They're interested in doing a master plan. And these master plans often set them up for additional funding. So a lot of times it's hard to apply for state funding if you don't have sort of the data of a master plan behind it. Other studies are which we almost funded right before COVID, is a cultural assets and inventory study. So it takes a look at all of our arts and cultural assets and does some benchmarking against other communities. We can use that data to promote, quality of life aspects of our community. So a lot of different things are floating out there. I think we play a role in driving a lot of that. These funds could be utilized to do that. So that is also in the budget, in the revised that Natalie sent out and read.
I'm good with the concept. I'm not sure that we need a separate fund, and just thinking through it, right? So the maturity of those treasuries, that's not really income. So it's just sort of like Joe mentions, balance sheet, right? So we have a very healthy balance sheet. And so it's just really allocating, okay, I want some of that to go towards a more liquid pool of funds that are available.
Yes.
And I'm not sure we need that. I'm not sure like the concept of having, an allocation saying, hey, we should be open to, up to $500,000 of expenses per year for these type of projects. I get that, but I don't know that you need a separate balance sheet sort of, it's almost like a board directed account to say, we're gonna use it for this economic development. So that's why I just don't know if it's the right mechanism.
Gotcha.
I'm good with having expenses like that. I think it's good to support those things. But I don't know that you need to specifically carve out specific assets for this purpose.
So more just as these come, just bring them to the board as we've been
That's my
currently
thinking.
doing.
I don't know that we need.
To have a separate and that's
Well, because you always keep a little slush money in that thing.
in that
yourself, today.
transition. Yeah.
Just in the back of your mind, say, we get approval, there's the cash, right?
Yeah, we try to
Same
anticipate. That's why I did make the
Doesn't affect
request.
balance sheet.
Okay,
Yeah,
I see what
same
you're
thing.
saying. Yeah, no, that's.
And maybe,
Yeah.
maybe
Just
that
wouldn't-
gets added to the budget to say, whatever you think, you think you'd spend $500,000 in any given year? Or,
I think over 2 years, there's more likely two. I don't think one, but I think looking at what's, some of those that I've outlined. And I'm trying to estimate what the average, sort of master planning, I would probably estimate many of these at roughly on average 75,000 per.
so
That might be
being the case,
conservative this day.
I do like how you break it out, that's right, it's not operating expenses, these are like our capital expenses, these are reasons why, we spend these monies, we go under budget, all right, we're gonna have more expenses, but it's an expense, right?
Right.
And how we fund it, because you're taking it from an asset.
Yeah,
rather
we're
than
just,
operating.
exactly. We're taking it from
From an
different,
So maybe you do keep showing it like this, because, the capital expenditures of $3 million isn't really set aside, or do we have that set aside? Is that just We're documenting that.
We're documenting that. We have it in a separate account, my interest bearing account right
I'm
now.
good documenting that, economic development,
Mhm.
if you want to call it fun, but just the mechanism, I don't think you need to specifically move money.
Move money into a separate and create okay. No, that's helpful. I appreciate that. feedback. Okay, that works for me. That was everything for the budget. Any feedback? Suggestions for edits, changes?
And just a question, is the IDAs, are they supposed to make money or are they like a not-for-profit where you're trying to keep it? I just for my reference, I don't know
Yeah,
how they're.
we're
perceived.
not, certainly not precluded from,
Uh-huh.
from earning income. I mean, we've always looked at it as, really focused on our interest income from our investment accounts and keeping that very strong and healthy, that our operating budget can, we always want to show positive net income, which,
Right.
the goal isn't necessarily to,
At a minimum to
yeah,
break. even.
I mean, almost,
Right,
yeah.
yes.
It's fair to say, we kind of work on certainly a break even.
And
That
not look to
net,
government
right,
money to keep us in business.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
if you have a big year, does anybody say, hey, what's going on? You should be spending more or no?
I
No,
mean,
they don't. really.
I mean,
Okay.
no,
State say something, possibly
That's what I-
the IRS say anything. I don't think
no,
so.
it's,
Okay.
yeah,
Please probably look at it over a number of years anyhow, try to smooth it out.
Yeah, right, yeah,
Yeah.
you have to.
You know,
and it's, when we held, for a long time, we held more property than we do now. And had active leases, so when we owned the old Singer Link building, we had a master tenant, which was L3. I mean, that was just income.
Right.
For at least a
Piling up
decade, it was
cash.
just, which really built that reserve. So now I think it's the management of that income is
Yeah.
more important to us than sort of netting. I think where we really try to be realistic on is the project pipeline, because that will directly impact our operating budget.
That's
So,
good.
okay, all right.
Hearing no other comments or questions, we'd look for a motion for approval to the full board.
So move.
Motion, Jim, second,
Second,
all in favor?
aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, and we can go right into LDC after Amy does all the fun. And Joe, I promise we'll get you out of here in
6 minutes.
6 minutes. LDC is a little more straightforward.
See that.
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
Good morning, 11 a.m., September 28th, 2023. Like to open up the meeting of the Audit and Finance Committee for the Broome County Local Development Corporation. First item on the agenda is to accept the meeting minutes from March 15th, 2023. Everyone's had a chance to review, so we will submit those for the record. Item 3 is a public comment period. Anyone wishing to comment to the Audit and Finance Committee, please state your name, limit your comments to 5 minutes. Being none, we will move on to the next. New business, review and recommendation of approval to the full board for the LDC operational budget for fiscal year 2024.
Yeah.
Please.
So as is with the IDA budget, our LDC budget also is required to be submitted to New York State Authorities Budget Office by October 31. So movement today to the full board will allow us to get that in time. So the LDC budget is pretty straightforward. We have a few sources of income that we plan for on an annual basis. For several years, if we go to the income line, we've been working with NYSEG on an economic development outreach program. That's marketing dollars that we receive. We've submitted that application and anticipate $75,000 from that grant to market the community. We use that to also to support some of our sponsorship dollars, miscellaneous income, $10,000. Again, we're slightly up this year, keeping that flat. This year, because of our participation in the CDBG Small Business Grant Program, we did receive, we will receive a total of $50,000. The final installment of that has been billed. But to date, we've received 36,298. We will not have that next year as that program is closed. So we've taken that out. Good Shepherd is a refinance of bonds that we receive annual income from. And then Leadership Alliance is monies we receive from the Greater Binghamton Chamber to support marketing of the shared partnership between the two organizations. So with that, our annual income projected for next year is $135,600, slight decrease because we had projected the 50,000 from the grant for 2023. If there's any questions on income.
Is Good Shepherd doing an addition or something
Yeah.
out there? They're doing a project, yeah. So,
And then expense side again is relatively the same. Some areas of increase on that is just continued maintenance, just slightly up from this year of the former IBM Country Club. That's a little bit of mowing every year, and then I think keeping some of the sidewalk area cleared in the winter. So we've upped that a little bit as we continue to hold that property while we wait the Conifer redevelopment. Let's see, marketing is just up slightly. That marketing line is mostly related to our support of the Dick's Sporting Goods Open event every year. Leadership Alliance marketing, that is monies that we support marketing of the partnership again, but also we use to support other community organizations, the Rumble Ponies, the Bearcats, etc. Community sponsorships is a way we can support smaller nonprofits with various events throughout the year. An audit is slightly up based on our quote from Insero. And then again, we will have to do another single audit because of our participation with the ARPA fund allocation. So our net increase on expenses is just shy of 11,000. And our net income projection for 2024 is $2,300. Again, kind of a break even is what we look for this. Any questions? Another note, and it's not a budget item, but we have approximately, what do we have in there?
400,000.
We have roughly 400,000 sitting in an account right now in cash reserve and checking. We are going to set up a few accounts. Can you talk about those?
Yeah, well, we just wanted to set up we're thinking of moving that into our money market account,
Yes.
just, okay. It's like,
Yes, yeah. Yeah,
So, for some interest and then pull out as we pay.
yeah. So, yeah, it was sitting and just not getting as much interest. I don't know why.
Interest to make, right?
Yeah,
I think we said, wait a minute, do we have that in a money market account? And because I think it sat there really not collecting money. And in the last year, it shifted. So I wish I had done that last year, but we're doing it now. So we're working to set that up with MVP. Is there another,
Pay 10%.
why am I missing an account? Right.
Well, no, because we were going to, because we were I was the IDA, the
Okay.
building reserves.
Oh, that's
We were
what it
gonna
was, the building.
Do a money
reserve.
market account as well.
Putting that into a separate account for the
And
building
then the other one
reserve.
we thought we would need would be the economic development fund.
But yes, but
So it's two.
okay, there, so yes.
Thank you, Stacy. Seeing no other comments or questions, we look for a recommendation of approval to the full board.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
All right.
No business, motion for adjournment.
So moved.
No,
Second.
we are adjourned.
Not bad.